Hello, welcome to week 6 from Chaos to Connection. This is the final class in the series. We started from Parshas Bereishis. We've been going through talking about the Taihu to Tikkun transformation. And this week really is the ultimate of the Taihu and Tikkun, because we have the relationship between Yaakov and Esav. And the relationship between Yaakov and Esav is really the epitome of Tayu versus Tikkun. So just to recap a little bit, the concept of Tayu means complete self-centeredness, complete focus on myself. It's when I can only see my point of view, I can only see my needs, I'm totally wrapped up in myself, I do not allow room for anyone else. Tikkun is that concept of many different people or many different forces being able to join together as one. And it corresponds to the world of Tayu before the world was created. There was initially 10 spheres, and they were each so powerful that they left no room for the other ones. And the result was Shviras HaKelim, that it shattered. The world was not able to contain those intense energies. And then it fell into those sparks fell into the world of Tikkun, where we are meant to pick up the pieces, put them back together. And the main difference between the world of Taihu and the world of Tikkun is that in Tikkun, the energies are smaller, they're not as intense, but they're more humble and they're more able to make room for one another. So the idea of Tikkun is, can I make room for someone else? Can I leave space for someone else? Can I move myself aside enough to be able to hear someone out, hear someone else's perspective? It's not that I give up my own perspective. It's not that I give up my own personality, give up my own needs. That's not what Tikkun is. If you think that I have to make myself a shmata, I have to crush myself, I have to obliterate myself in order to make way for someone else, that's not what Tikkun is. Tikkun is me being within my own kalim. I'm able to meet with you being your own kalim, and we can still come together. I remain I, you remain you, and still we're able to find common ground with each other. So the ultimate of that tension between Taihu and Tikkun we find in this week's parsha, and the relationship between Yaakov and Esav. That Esav, his sherish is in Taihu, and Yaakov, his sherish is in Tikkun. And all the events that transpire between these two brothers reflect that tension between Taihu and Tikkun. Now, if you think about it a little bit, why do we need the world of Taihu? Why did Hashem initially create the world with Taihu, and then there's the world of Tikkun? Why did Hashem create the world with forces that were too powerful and too strong? So we have to understand that there is a need for the world of Taihu. There is a need for the energy of Taihu. There's a need for those very, very powerful energies. And that's why Hashem originally created the world with Taihu. The thing is that Taihu has to come together with Tikkun. The ultimate is when Taihu and Tikkun are able to come together and work together. So we're going to explore that concept. They sound like two opposites, but it's actually our Aveda is to bring them together, to unify the Taihu and the Tikkun, and we're going to talk about that. So we have Esav, who represents Taihu. We have Yaakov, who represents Tikkun. They also represent Esav represents the Nefesh Abamis. Yaakov represents the Nefesh Elikis. Esav's whole Metzias, Esav's whole character was me. So there's a few different episodes of the Parsha. We're going to talk about that demonstrate Esav's attitude of me. Yaakov's attitude, he was Ishtan Me'eshavai Ellen. His whole focus was learning Torah, serving Hashem. That was his whole entire existence. So you have on one hand an extreme of self-focus, the other hand an extreme of focus on Hashem. And how are we going to, bring those extremes together? So the Parsha begins with Eila Toldes. These are the children of Yitzchak. And Rashi says Yaakov and Esav Hamur and Parsha, which Yaakov and Esav, as they are mentioned in the Parsha, which kind of seems redundant. Here we know that he had children. He had Yaakov and Esav. Why does it have to say Hamur and Parsha as they are, as they are written in the Parsha? And the reason for that is that the way that Yaakov and Esav are in the Parsha, meaning the way that Hashem originally conceived the relationship, that's what we have to think about. Not how Esav actually was, how he actually came out, how he was a hunter, and how he was a murderer, and how he was an enemy of Yaakov. But we have to think about Esav in his ideal state. There are three different episodes we find with Yaakov and Esav in the sixth parsha. So in the beginning, we have that Rivka becomes pregnant, and she doesn't know that she's carrying twins, but she just notices that every time she's passing by a place of kedusha, the baby tries to come out. She passes by a place of avodah zarah, tumah, bad, and the child tries to go out. So she's very confused. What's going on? How do I have this baby inside of me that has these two extremes? He wants to go to the shul, but he also wants to go to the base of Zarah. What's going on? She was very concerned. So she went to Shein Be'ever, and they told her, you have Shnei Banim B'Vitnich. You have actually not one child, you have two children. They are both going to be great nations. And these two nations are going to be constantly warring with each other. And when one is up, the other one's going to be down. So that is our state in this world, that there's these two nations, as Tanya explains, there are these two nations that are struggling inside of us all the time with two completely opposite tendencies. We have the Nefesh Elikis and we have the Nefesh Abamis, who are constantly in a struggle together. And it's a wrestle. It's like a constant internal battle. And there's a mimer, we're now in Chodesh Kislev, there's a mimer, Padul Shalom Nafshi, it's a mimer of the Mitzvah Rebbe, and it was, explained by all the different Rebbeim, different, levels, layers of explanation. But this idea of Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, the idea of redeeming my soul in peace, is referring to the battle between the Nefesh Elikis and the Nefesh Abamis. And the whole idea is Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, that it should be a peaceful battle. We should be redeemed in peace. And to be redeemed in peace from a battle means that there's no longer conflict between them. We're able to settle our differences, not that one knocks out the other. They're both still existing, but they're no longer at war. They're actually made peace with each other. So that is really the ultimate of our Veda, that we should not that we defeat the Nefesh Abamis, but that we learn to work together with the Nefesh Abamis. And the same applies to the relationship between Yaakov and Esau, that ultimately the idea is that those two brothers should make peace. So there's a Sichot Rebbe on this parsha about the relation between Yaakov and Esau that explains that Esau actually, he had a very, very high shirish in Kedusha. They each were meant to do a different Aveda in the world, but Esau did not do his Aveda the way he was supposed to. So it was left to Yaakov to do the work of both brothers. So what is the difference between the Aveda of Yaakov and the Aveda of Esau? So again, Esau is that me, extreme egotistical, very powerful, very forceful. I'm going to get it my way. Esau, when he met Yaakov in Parshat Vayishlach, he said, Yeshli Rav, I have a lot. His whole focus is on accumulating more and more and more wealth, which also reflects on the idea of Toihu, where there's just a lot of different parts, but there's no unity between them. Whereas Yaakov says, Yeshli Kol, I have everything that I need. Everything that I need, I have. That's the idea of Kol Hiskalalos. Like I have everything's included. So it's all like a seamless unity. A person who has an attitude of Yeshli Kol never feels dissatisfied with where they are in life, because whatever I have right now is what I need in order to serve Hashem in this moment. So I always have everything that I have right now to do the Aveda of this moment. So if I needed something else, then I would have it. Hashem would give it to me. The fact that I don't have it means that my Aveda right now in this moment doesn't require that. So that's the Aveda of Yesh Likol. I have everything that I need, and I always have everything that I need because that is the Aveda of the moment. There's a famous story of Mendel Futterfast that when he was in prison, the people around him, each one was lamenting about their past. I was a famous doctor. I was a famous professor. I was a famous musician. Each one had like a very illustrious career. And now they're sitting in this communist prison. And only Mendel was not complaining. And they said, what about you? He said, nothing changed. Before I was a chassid, now I'm a chassid. It's all the same. So when we have that sense of Yesh Likol, I have everything that I need, then nothing that happens affects me because I always realize that I have everything that I need in order to do my Aveda in this very moment. So that's the Aveda of Yaakov, the Aveda of always being one with Hashem, of always realizing wherever I am, this is where Hashem wants me to be. I'm doing exactly the shluchos and Aveda Hashem wants from me in this moment. So back to Esav. So this intense focus on yourself, this intense need for power, for domination, where does it have a place in the world of Kedusha? I mean, where does Esav go for his tikkun? What is the ultimate ideal of Esav? So in that Tzachad Rebbe explains that there's two forms of Aveda in this world. There's the Aveda of Esav, which is he was an Ish Sayid. He used to go out. He was a hunter, and there was the Ish Tam Yeshiv Alim. There's the simple person who sits in the tent. So, in order to do the Aveda in the world, in order to break through into the world, in a world that does not recognize Hashem, and come into that world and say, here we are, and we are Jews, and we follow the Torah, and we're going to keep the Torah no matter what, that takes a tremendous energy. And we have to be strong, and we have to be proud, and we have to know who we are and what we are. And I am who I am, and it doesn't matter, and nothing that anybody says is going to break me. And we also have to learn how to navigate in the world. We have to learn how to see through the sheker of the world, that the world is full of falsehood, and we have to learn how to present ourselves and how to deal with all this sheker negativity, how we can use the trappings of the world and make them into Kedusha. So that is all the Aveda of someone who's an Ish Tzayid, someone who has that sharpness, shall we say, or sophistication, or that just social intelligence, that ability to understand what's going through other people's minds, understand how to present yourself, understand how, in this situation, what's appropriate for this situation, what's appropriate for that situation. That's all a force that can be used to Kedusha. But Esav chose differently. Esav chose to be a hunter. So therefore it was left to Yaakov to do the Aveda of both him and Esav. So what's Aveda of Yaakov? Is the Ish Tam Yeshiv Helen. Now Yaakov's Aveda, his midah was emes. Like I learned Torah. I don't deal with the world. I just focus on the word of Hashem. But the thing with emes is that no matter which situation you're in, you're always the same. It means it doesn't change. I don't change who I am based on the situation that I'm in. The Aveda of emes is I can show up anywhere, wherever I am, whatever Torah says. So I always am in the same state of mind, no matter what situation I'm in. That was Aveda of Yaakov. So the idea is that we need the forcefulness and dynamism of the world of Taihu, and we need the bittul and the emes that comes from being an Ish Tam Yeshiv V'Halal. Since Esav used his power in the wrong way, it was left to Klal Yisrael. That was why Yitzchak gave the brachos to Yaakov, that he saw in Yitzchak saw the potential in Esav. That's why he originally intended to give the brachos to Esav. Rivka saw that only Yaakov is going to be able to use those brachos in the right direction. And that's why she wanted that Yaakov should get the brachos. And it had to come through trickery, because that was the idea that we are taking this midah, we are taking this whole shall we say slyness or sneakiness, and using it for the sake of kedusha. So let's go back and talk about the relationship between our nefesh elikis and nefesh habamis, which also corresponds to tayu and tikkun. So what is the nefesh habamis all about? So the nefesh habamis is our survival drive. It's a survival instinct. So we come down to the world as an neshama in a guf. So the nefesh elikis really has no interest in this world. It has no need for anything in this world. It has no desire to be in this world. Eating, drinking, sleeping, all the desires and pleasures of this world really hold no interest at all for the nefesh elikis. It's not interested in being here. It's happy davening. It's happy learning. It's happy on Shabbos when there's complete peace. But the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day keeping a roof over your head and having to think about money and having to think about the next meal and all these tasks and duties, the nefesh elikis really has no interest in that. Who has an interest, who has a survival drive for the physical? That is the nefesh habamis. So now you see that in order for the nefesh elikis has to come down to this world. It's not by choice. Hashem sends the nefesh elikis down to this world, but it needs help to navigate in the world. It needs help just to get through the day and be able to carry out the functions of the physical world, of keeping the physical body alive. So whose job is it to tend to those functions? It's the nefesh elikis. It's the nefesh habamis. The nefesh habamis is given the responsibility to take care of the functions of the physical world. So it has certain basic drives, certain basic needs. And Alter Rebbe Tanya divides into Eish, Ruach, Mayim, and Afar. Like, for example, our need for power, for domination, that's an Eish need. Our need for air, that's a Ruach need. The emotional need that's related to Ruach is need for fun, joy, movement, creativity, self-expression. That's all Ruach needs. The basic need for shelter, rest, that's an Afar need. And then the need for food and drink, nurturing, those are all Mayim needs. So we have all these basic needs, these basic drives, and they're always interfering or disrupting our desire to connect to Hashem. It's like tugging us down all the time. That's what the whole Tanya is all about. We have this need, we have that need, we have this push and pull inside of us. So how can we make this be a pada b'shalom nafshi? How can we have peace? How can we have peace between us from these two very different directions? So the only way to do that is by realizing that the nefesh habamis, by assisting us to keep us alive, is actually carrying out a very important purpose. That the purpose of Hashem is, the will of Hashem is the Dir B'Tachtonim. The will of Hashem is to have a dwelling place in the lower worlds. So it's really not a fight. It's really not a battle. We have physical drives. Hashem gave us these physical drives. Hashem gave us these physical needs. And our need is to use them out in a spiritual way. And at the same time is when we realize that the ultimate benefit for the body, the healthiest, emotionally, physically, psychologically, mentally, is when we're aligned. The nefesh elikis and the nefesh habamis are working together. It is the best of all worlds. And I think as we, in the world at large, we're starting to see that more and more, that we need to have a purpose for living. We need to have all our different needs aligned with each other. We need to have more empathy for ourselves. We can't always be judging ourselves harshly or judging other people harshly. So all this judgment and harshness and need to put ourselves down, need for control, need for power, that comes from not understanding how the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Abamis are really meant to be working together, just like Yaakov and Esav really are meant to be working together. So just want to talk a little bit more about this concept of the Nefesh Abamis and Nefesh Elokis working together. So the basic character of the Nefesh Abamis is, number one, that it's selfish. It's very, very self-centered. It really only understands its own needs. The primary consideration of the Nefesh Abamis is, what's in it for me? What am I gaining out of this? In every situation, that's really its only concern. The Nefesh Abamis doesn't have a natural need or desire or concern for anyone else. So, for example, there's a famous Hayom that says that two Nefesh Elokis, we should always like talk with our friend, talk things over with our friend, because then you have two Nefesh Elokis against one Nefesh Abamis. Why isn't it 2 against 2? Because my Nefesh Elokis and your Nefesh Elokis are one. And we're always going to want to help each other and support each other and encourage each other. But my Nefesh Abamis and your Nefesh Abamis have no interest in helping each other. My Nefesh Abamis only cares about me, your Nefesh Abamis only cares about you. And that's just an important principle to remember. Whenever we're feeling in conflict with somebody else, that means that I'm in my Nefesh Abamis mindset. I'm in the Tohu mindset. I am not in the Nefesh Elokis mindset. Because as soon as I feel any kind of conflict with someone else, I know that it's not coming from my Nefesh Elokis. Because if it was coming from my Nefesh Elokis, why can't it be like, it's my Nefesh Elokis? It's really bothering me that you're being so obnoxious. My Nefesh Elokis is really, really bothered by your obnoxiousness. But according, the famous teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, that if you're really, really bothered by somebody else, that is not coming from the Nefesh Elokis. Even if you think, oh, I'm really bothered because she lies so much, or she's so chosbedek, or she's so this, it's because I'm recognizing that midah in myself. So that's why I'm being annoyed by it. If it was my Nefesh Elokis that was noticing it, my only thought would be empathy for that person. Oh, she's really struggling right now. Oh, she's really having a hard time with this particular midah. Oh, maybe there's something I could say. Maybe there's something I could do. How could I help this person? That would be your only thought. Once you get aggravated, annoyed, irritated, upset, you know that you're in the space of your Nefesh Abamis, not in the space of your Nefesh Elokis. So that's the number one thing, that the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Abamis is very self-centered. Its only concern is my own survival, my own needs. Another character of the Nefesh Abamis is it's very intelligent. It has a good brain. The Nefesh Abamis is not stupid, and we have to keep in mind that the Nefesh Abamis is very clever in getting its needs met. Just like Esav. Esav is very, very smart. He's very intelligent. He's very good at figuring out how to navigate in this world. And so is our Nefesh Abamis. Very, very smart, very savvy, very good at getting its needs met, very good at rationalizing anything that it wants to do, coming up with good excuses, good reasons why this is the best thing. And a Nefesh Abamis can be very well spoken. It could make a very, very, very good case for why what it wants is good and true and right, and why what the Nefesh Elokis wants is not so good. It could be very smart. It could be very intelligent. So we can't just dismiss the Nefesh Abamis as, being foolish and silly. It has a lot of intelligence to it, and in fact, because it's all in one person, it's pretty well matched as far as intelligence and as far as different capabilities. It's pretty well matched on both sides. Another thing is the Nefesh Abamis has a lot of energy. It has to have a lot of energy because it has to get you out of bed, and it has to get you to work, and it has to get you through your day and doing everything that you need to do in order to stay alive and keep on top of things and pay your bills. And this is all the Nefesh Abamis' job. It's not the Nefesh Elokis' job to make sure that you eat lunch and that you pack lunch for your kids, because Nefesh Elokis doesn't know anything. It has nothing to do with the physical world. It has no relationship with the physical world. It's the Nefesh Abamis that has to do all these tasks. So it has to have a lot of energy. If you think, okay, well, laziness comes from the Nefesh Abamis. Laziness is one trait that some people have more of, some people have less of. Usually laziness is, I'm lazy to do the things I don't want to do. But then the things that I do want to do, I'm not lazy at all. I can have a lot of drive. So what about, is it bad? Is it evil? No, it's not evil. It's trying to survive. So self-centeredness in and of itself does not necessarily mean that you're evil, but extreme self-centeredness taken to an extreme can lead to terrible evil. So that is the Nefesh HaBahamis. It's a survival instinct. It's our drive to function in this world, get our needs met. It's really only concerned with one person, and that's me. That's all my Nefesh HaBahamis cares about. What about my Nefesh Elokis? So my Nefesh Elokis is part of Hashem. It is an actual part of Hashem that comes down and is within my body. And the needs of my Nefesh Elokis and the needs of Hashem are identical. And the needs of your Nefesh Elokis and Hashem are identical. So my Nefesh Elokis, your Nefesh Elokis, everybody's Nefesh Elokis, we are all one. We are all perfectly united on the level of Nefesh Elokis. When two people meet and we're both relating to each other on the level of Nefesh Elokis, it's a beautiful relationship. It is warm, it is caring, we're both devoted to each other, we have the same goals in mind. It's a beautiful relationship. If we could all relate to each other on the level of Nefesh Elokis, we wouldn't have any fights, we wouldn't have any arguments, we wouldn't have any conflicts. Even our, machlekes l'shem shamayim, it would be all done in a respectful way. There wouldn't be any, nastiness involved. That's on the level of the Nefesh Elokis. Because we are all one, we have the same shayrish. We're part of one soul. So we don't have any friction with each other. The only way we have friction with each other is when we're in the mind state of the Nefesh HaBahamis. So the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh HaBahamis come down, and they're both in the world, and they're both occupying the same body. And they, my eyes, my ears, my nose, my mouth, my entire body, my brain, what thoughts I'm going to think about, even my feelings. What emotions am I going to project right now? What emotions am I going to feel? That's all the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh HaBahamis arguing with each other and fighting with each other. But this internal battle all the time between the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh HaBahamis. So how do we get these two opposite forces that both live inside of us? How do we get it to not make us crazy, not to be crazy, not to be in a state of internal conflict all the time? How can we live like this? We have two different forces, two different minds in control. It's very interesting. Now there's a whole type of therapy called internal family systems, and it's a whole way of understanding different parts and different, this is the healing part, and this is the protecting part, and all these different parts. But 250 years ago, the Alter Rebbe was already telling us that we have two different nefashos. We have two different brains, two different souls that are fighting within us, that are trying to control the body. So what is the ideal relationship between the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh HaBahamis? So number one is to understand the reason that we have a Nefesh HaBahamis, that it's there for a reason. It's not just something that we need to push out altogether and knock it down and knock it out. We're not meant to knock it out. We need that energy. We need that forcefulness. We need that dynamism that the Nefesh HaBahamis has. We need the energy that comes from the world of Tayu, that can break through all boundaries, that says, yes, I am who I am. Where does this I am who I am come from? Ultimately, it comes from Hashem. Anyone that can stand up and say, I am who I am, is coming from Anochi Mishanechi. Hashem says, I am who I am, and he gave in us a little bit of that I am who I am, except we could use that for our selfish needs, in which case it is completely destructive. It's nuclear war. It's power for the sake of power, which was represented by Esav, and for many, many thousands of years of history, we see that play out, that it's power for the sake of power. Or it could be, I need that power in order to make Hashem known in the world. When Yidden get together, they create such tremendous energy that we break through all the klippos of the world. So that is taking that Tohu energy, that forcefulness, that stance, that absolute stance of I am who I am, and using it to reveal Elikut in the world. So this fight, between the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Habahamis is mainly during davening. So let's go back to the Beis Hamikdash. Our tefillahs are in the place of karbanis. When they used to bring karbanis, they were actually offering up the animal inside of them, the animal inside of us. And when they shot the animal and they sprinkled the blood, that was the kavana. I am now taking my animal soul, and I am dedicating it to Hashem. I am giving it over to Hashem. So now we don't have the Beis Hamikdash. We don't bring actual animals, but we do bring we bring our Nefesh Habahamis. We bring our Nefesh Habahamis during Tefillah. Tefillah is in the place of Karbanis. So when we daven, we are actually giving over our Nefesh Habahamis to Hashem. So what is going on when we daven? Do you have a hard time focusing during davening? Is it easy for you? Is it something that you enjoy doing? Is it something that you rush through? Everybody has their own personal, issues, and it could be changed different times of my life, or different times are easier for me, harder for me. Sometimes I'm very inspired davening, sometimes I'm not so inspired. But let's just take an overall view of what's going on during davening. So does the Nefesh Elokis want to daven? Yes, of course, that's what it lives for. That's what it wants. All it wants to do is daven and learn and do mitzvahs and Torah. That's its whole life. That's what it wants. Does the Nefesh Habahamis want to daven? No, the Nefesh Habahamis is not interested in davening. It's boring. I have other things to do. It's hard for me to focus. It's hard for me to concentrate. So the Nefesh Habahamis and the Nefesh Elokis, that's a Shnas Tzleisa, Shnas Korba. It's the time of war between the Nefesh Habahamis and the Nefesh Elokis is during davening. During davening is a time that's the Nefesh Elokis. This is my time. This is my time to express itself. It's my turn to use the body to do my thing, and my thing is to praise Hashem. And now I want you, Nefesh Habahamis, to at least not bother me and not distract me, so that I can do my thing. The rest of the day is going to be your turn, and you're going to be eating and drinking and sleeping and working and focusing on, doing your shopping, doing your grocery shopping. You're going to be doing all that. That's your time. Nefesh Elokis is saying, I want my time. And Nefesh Habahamis is saying, no, let's get back to my needs, my wants. So what does the Nefesh Elokis do? Nefesh Elokis says to the Nefesh Habahamis, listen, we have to daven because we have to ask Hashem for rain and for food and for clothing and for all these things that we need. So it's trying to show the Nefesh Habahamis that, look, davening is not only for my sake, davening is for your sake too. You need this tefillah. You need it as much as I do. You need it because if you want the rest of your day to go well, you want to have food on the table, you want to have energy, and you want to have good relationships with your husband, wife, children. You want everything to go well in your day. We need this time to speak to Hashem. So the Nefesh Elokis is trying to get the Nefesh Habahamis on its own terms to understand it is good for you. It is good for us. It's not that, oh, leave me alone so I can daven, and then we'll let you have your turn and have your fun. No, we're working together. If you want the rest of your day to go well, we need this time to daven to Hashem. It's healthy for us. It's the best and healthiest for us when we start off our day with tefillah. Now there are times, we've all been through the times when we were in a terrible Sarah, we're going through something so terrible that we turn to Hashem and we're davening and we're crying, and who is doing that tefillah? Is it the Nefesh Elokis or is it the Nefesh Habahamis? And it's both, because the Nefesh Habahamis feels so overwhelmed that it just has no choice but to daven. It's like when it thinks it's in control, when it thinks, okay, everything's fine, I'm managing, and I have enough money in the bank account, and I have all the help that I need, and my day's going smoothly, and my life's going smoothly, I don't have any special challenges, it feels like it's in control, it feels like I'm managing, this is all my keichos, it's all my power. The minute it sees, like, I'm in a situation where I'm not in control, it feels that lack, it feels that I'm lost. The Nefesh Habahamis is also turning to Hashem. You find even like atheists, when they feel that sense of my life being out of control, I need some help, they are turning. They might call it Hashem, they might call it a higher power, they call it whatever. But that instinct to pray is something very primal inside of us, and it's in the Nefesh Habahamis as well. So the main battleground for the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Habahamis is during the time of Tefillah. But now, after davening is over, the Nefesh Elokis is not satisfied with that. Okay, we had our half hour of davening. Okay, fine, goodbye. See you in the afternoon or see you at night by Krishma. No, the Nefesh Elokis wants to keep that going throughout the day. It wants that tefillah should be reflected in the way you eat breakfast and in the way that you go to work and in the way that you take care of your children, and the whole day, the reishim of that tefillah should remain. Does that always happen? That's part of our struggle. That's part of our battle, is to keep that going, that the Nefesh Habahamis should have enough of the imprint of that tefillah that it should continue it. It should continue that inspiration throughout the day. So that is the battle that's going on inside of us, between the Yaakov and the Esav that's inside of us. And ultimately, what is it that's going to finally resolve, the fight? So there's one power that the Nefesh Elokis have, Nefesh Habahamis does not have, and that is the Yechida Shebenefesh. When the Yechida Shebenefesh makes an appearance, the Nefesh Habahamis recedes. Like when we're in a situation where you feel like my connection to Hashem is hanging by a thread, I will do everything in my power to keep my connection to Hashem no matter what. And the needs and the wants and the desires of Nefesh Habahamis completely fade into the background. So that's the power of the Yechida. But what Yechida is not always shiny. The Yechida is not always revealed. Most of the time, it's very, very, very hidden. It only comes out in times of an emergency. So the Alter Rebbe teaches us in Tanya that just by having the awareness of the Yechida Shebenefesh, we can call on it even in situations where it would seem like it's not an emergency. We can think that we could tell ourselves that even in this situation, any slight distance from Hashem is an emergency. It is an emergency for my neshama, and that in that way we call out the power of the Nefesh Elokis. And since the Nefesh has no counterpart, it does not have Yechida, it does not have a part that's essentially connected to Hashem. So that's how the Nefesh Elokis can overcome the Nefesh Habahamis. And that is the Yechidas, the spark of Mashiach that's inside every single one of us. That Mashiach is when all the nations of the world are also going to recognize Hashem, that they're going to see the Yidden, they're going to see that the Yidden reflect godliness, they're going to see that we all need this godliness in our lives as well. They will turn to the Bnei Yisrael. They will ask us to teach them and to guide them in serving Hashem. And that is the ultimate resolution of the battle between Esav and Yaakov. At the end of Parshas Vayishlach, when Yaakov met Esav and he said, you go on ahead and I'll meet you later, and they never met, but that is referring to Yemei Mashiach. And the Rebbe said that the beer of Esav has already been completed. The Veda of Esav is already completed. There's now peace between the nations of the world and Bnei Yisrael. I know right now it doesn't look like that. It looks like the nations of the world are against us. But the truth, the truth is whatever the Rebbe tells us, that's what's the truth. So the concept of Birurim is that everything is already clarified. Birurim is when the sparks, they're hidden and they're mixed in with everything else. So now we're really in the final moments before Mashiach, where we could see very clearly how there's the Yidden and then there's the rest of the world. And you can either, side with Bnei Yisrael, you could side with our connection to Eretz Yisrael and the basic existence of the Jewish people. And when you listen, to the people who are against Israel right now, it's very clear that they don't care if Israel exists or not. They don't care if the Jewish people exist or not. So they're going to come up with all these reasons and all these excuses why the Jewish people should not exist, why there's all these other things that they're arguing for. So it's very clear that this is a battle for the survival, not just of the state of Israel, but for the Jewish people themselves. So when we stand up and we say Am Yisrael Chai and we reveal our connection to Hashem, we are bringing the whole world to recognize that the power of Bnei Israel, the power of Hashem in this world, and that is the ultimate tikkun for the entire world, when everyone can recognize and everyone can see that the whole existence of the world is only Elikos. It only exists for the sake of Bnei Israel, for the sake of Hashem. So this is the final week in this course, which we talked about the idea, the transformation from Taihu to Tikkun, of going from a world where there's a lot of scattered elements to a world where we're all unified, we're all working together, we're all serving Hashem as one. Mushki has a question. Will Esau ever claim responsibility for his job? Yaakov getting the brachos mean we keep his job forever? Oh, that's a very good question. So ultimately, yes, Esau should also use his strength and use his power for the sake of Bnei Israel, whether it means that they will actually join the Jewish people or will, so let's say, for example, okay, so let's take somebody who people who have all these great inventions. So their motivation for coming up with these great inventions, whether it was a new medicine or a breakthrough in technology, was not to serve Hashem. It was not to serve Bnei Israel. It was not to bring Kedusha into the world. Their motivation was their own needs, their own egos. I want to be powerful. I want to be rich. I want to win the Nobel Prize. So they might have had egotistical motivations, but once they used their keiches and it was brought into the world, now we can take those inventions and we use them for Kedusha. So in a sense, their push to do these things, to get these things into the world, might have been based on ego or need for power. But once they did it, it became holy. So eventually, I hope that will happen. All these brilliant people, and whether you're brilliant or whatever keiches you have, whatever strengths you have, Jewish, non-Jewish, will all recognize the reason that Hashem gave me these talents is so that I can use them to serve Him. So yes, ultimately everyone in the world will recognize that whatever powers we have is not. It's not our own powers. It's not our own brilliance. It's all given to us as gifts for Hashem that we should use for the benefit of each other. Anyone else want to comment? Have a question? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining. And Yirtzeh Hashem, I am going to be starting a new series of insights from Tanya for parenting, because the relationship between our Nefesh Abamis and Nefesh Elokis, and the way that we're supposed to try to work together instead of trying to dominate and use control techniques, is very much parallels, the idea that as parents also, when we raise our children, the more we try to use control, power, dominance, it doesn't work. It's a shift in our generation as we get closer to Mashiach. We need to use those methods that are based in compassion, empathy, and so Rich, I'm going to be starting that class. Let's share more details as we go. Thank you so much for joining.